We'll move on to additional delegation requests. The clerk's office is in receipt of 4 additional delegation requests that were submitted yesterday. Angie Domagato has submitted a request to speak respecting the effects of the lockdown on residents and senior care homes, as well as the general public. Cheryl Frame has submitted a delegation request to speak respecting impacts on health due to the mask mandate. Danielle Romanuk has submitted a delegation request to speak respecting Councillor Rigby's motion. Stephanie Handrichuk has submitted a delegation request to speak respecting the public shaming and public health due to the mandate masks. These requests will be considered by the committee. I'd like a mover and a seconder to permit the delegations, please. Councillor Jordan. Councillor Jordan is moving it, and could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Butters, all in favor?
Can we discuss this, please, before this happens?
Certainly. Go ahead, Councillor Encina, would you like to speak first?
Thank you, Chair. We have had several meetings with regards to input from the public with regards to masks. We are now mandated by the provincial government, so it is essentially taken out of our hands as to what we do with this. So does our dealing with this now and having people speak who we've already probably, I believe, have the same messages that we've heard before, does the provincial government decision not negate what we're going to do and what we're going to have to say about this?
Oops, thank you, Councillor Encina. Dr. Hergy, would you like to comment?
Madam Chair, this is more a legal question than necessarily a public health question, but I think what the councillors basically said is correct. Any decision around the region's mask bylaw right now would have minimal real effect in the world because the provincial regulation is really, in most cases, the dominant rule now.
Thank you, Councillor Hergy. Okay, Councillor Senzik.
Well, I agree with Councillor
Encina. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Councillor Encina. Was that it? Were you satisfied with that response?
Thank you, Chair. No, I'm good, and I'll turn it over to Mayor Senzik. Thank you. I just don't think it's in our realm to go through. And Walter, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Senzik.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Encina. I think the chair. First of all, I think the chair, Chair Greenwood, you should make a decision on this as the chair of the committee in terms of providing some direction. We've got one speaker wanting to talk about the lockdown. We're not discussing the lockdown today. You've got speakers wanting to talk about the mask. There is no decision on whether or not we should lift the mask issue today. It's strictly, I think, coming from Councillor Rigby, just looking for some other information. I don't think that it's a valuable use of anybody's time to get into a current discussion about things that are largely now beyond our control with the province. And to the clerk, when you're setting the agenda, if someone's contacting you to talk about things like lockdown and its effect on the community, that's not a subject that's on our agenda today. So I would have hoped that there would have been some direction from the clerk's office to say, that's not an agenda item, unless, again, City of St. Catharines, if it's not on the agenda, you can't just come and speak. I don't know if it's different here at the region or committee, but I would hope that the committee clerk would have provided some direction that those aren't topics that you should be speaking on. Can we get some clarification before we vote? Because this is important use of everybody's time.
Thank you, Councillor Senzik. Emery?
Through you, Chair. You're correct, Councillor Senzik. In the procedural bylaw, if something is not on the agenda, you have to give 14 days notice to speak to it. But of course, there is the provision also in the bylaw that allows committee to consider the motion even if it was submitted past the deadline. So that's what these ones were submitted past the deadline in this case. And as well, there is the memo from Dr. Hergy providing a COVID update, which does somewhat relate, which is why they were put on for committee's consideration to decide whether or not they wanted to hear from the delegations.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Yes, Councillor Rigby?
Just to be clear, the motion that properly brought forward, isn't making a change to the bylaw decision. It is requesting additional information for us to consider in the future. And if that item is on the agenda, if that person wishes to speak to that item, I don't have an issue with that. So.
Through you, Chair. So the motion is on the floor to permit all the delegations to speak. If committee is not in favor, then they can defeat the motion.
All right, the motion is on the floor. We do have a mover and a seconder for that. Oh, there is. Councillor Villela.
No, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. I just want to say that, yes, I do believe, having the information that the delegations, it does pertain to the agenda. Maybe not stuff we want to hear, or some folks not want to hear again, but I think it's important to allow the constituents to speak. So I just wanted to say that, and that I am in favor of listening.
Councillor Rigby, did you have anything further to say? I know you did speak before. Okay, fine. Councillor Butters?
Well, yes, if you will, if you allow me. This morning we had a presentation that was requested after the fact, and I interceded with that individual before the weekend. And after having a discussion with that individual, they decided to wait until we actually had a report before, and that's happening. And I think we need to be doing more of that as chairs, because we've been inundated with walk-in requests. And if it's a matter of subject, then I don't have a problem with that. But when it is not on our agenda, I think we need to get better control of that. But that's all about the bylaws, and we need to look at that.
Thank you, Councillor Rigby. Councillor Butters?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just my thought process. When a person in Niagara cares enough to want to get on the agenda for us to hear them, they should be heard. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Butters. Seeing no other speakers to the list, I'm going to call the question.
Recorded vote.
Sir Senzik, did you want something to say?
Yeah, just make sure we vote with the
Recorded
yes
vote,
or no on
okay.
the side.
I'm going to call the question as to whether or not the delegates should be allowed to speak today. We have a motion to put this forward with Councillor Jordan, and a seconder was Councillor Butters. It's a recorded vote. There's 3 respecting the masks and 1 respecting the home, so that we want it split with one and the other. There's 3 for the mask.
Yeah.
And 1 for the lockdown at the long-term care.
3 for the mask?
3 for the mask.
Oh.
So would you want it split into 2, voting on the mask first?
I think we, in fairness, we might want to just split them into, if there's 3 for the mask and 1 for one other.
My God.
I'm not going to argue it. Get on with the vote.
Okay, let's do it as I had said first. Let's vote on the motion that's before us with respect to whether we'll be allowing the speakers to speak.
Okay, Chair Bradley.
Consent. No.
Councillor Butters.
Yes.
Councillor Kiokio. Councillor Dart.
No.
Councillor Foster.
No.
Councillor Gibson.
No.
Councillor Encina.
No.
Councillor Yip.
No.
Councillor Jordan.
Yes.
Councillor Nicholson.
No.
Councillor Rigby.
Yes.
Councillor Senzik.
No.
Councillor Villela.
In favor.
Councillor Whalen.
No.
Counselor Witteveen,
No.
Counselor Greenwood.
No.
Motion is defeated.